What's up, guys? Welcome back to Footage File. I thought we would do something fun for this episode. We're going to be doing something a little bit different. I like to call a detail dive, where basically I'm just going to scrub through a movie and talk about what I like about it and why it's cool and why it works. So this time, I'm going to be talking about Fellowship of the Ring, the theatrical version, not the extended version. I've got the extended version here, but I just saw the theatrical version in theaters. First time in theaters, but probably like 40th time overall, roughly. I've been watching it since I was like 11. But I mean, I personally don't shit on people who hate the extended versions or people who hate the theatrical versions, because I think each version is valid, completely valid. Something I like to call the law of ladder viewings is this principle I've come up with, in which whichever version you see first, the second one you will like better. And this is a winner. This movie totally does survive 100%. It fucking slaps. The extended is fine. I don't go back to the extended because it's like, you watch the theatrical and you're like, oh my god, it's so much more concise. And it's like just so much more streamlined and all the fat is gone. The other ones you could totally make the argument, like Two Towers, Return of the King, they've got things going on besides what's there already. You know, like you watch the theatrical and then there are wholly brand new scenes in Two Towers and Return of the King. But with Fellowship, that's not the case. It's literally like, yo, imagine we took this movie and just put every scene that was great and extended it by 10 minutes. It's so ridiculous. It's just such a slog to sit through. It's 3:48:11. It's fucking so long. Who has time to watch that? Sorry about the cropping. It's like hilarious. This is like the VHS version of the movie. Oh my god. The quality is so low. Oh my god. I love the fact that they're real people here. Always good to see, because you don't always see that, especially in the Hobbit movies. One of 1.5 million reasons why the Hobbit movies don't work is just the fact that it looks so fake. So it's amazing. I always appreciate when you've got people in costume and makeup, because then it's real, then it feels real. It's the same thing with the miniatures in this movie, and I love how the miniatures really like stick out. This is like full artistry, this is movie making, this is transportation, true escapism right here. So I love that. You know, if it's a real person, if it's a real thing, if it's real life photography being shot, then there's always that like inherent magic to it. Not discrediting CG artists, because the CG artists did an amazing job on this movie. This is great. Oh, I love how Elrond shows up in this scene. This is great at establishing the age of the elves, because when you meet him for the first time, like an hour and a half later, the first thing you're like, oh, it's that guy, and it immediately establishes, without really saying anything, the immortality of the elves and kind of his perspective on how everything's gone. He was there at the beginning, and he was there at the end. Oh, here we go. The original young Bilbo. This is what bugs me. Another part about the Hobbit movies is that you have Ian Holm here as young Bilbo, who's great. He's a great choice for Bilbo. Then to make the Peter Jackson Hobbit movies, for him to do that, which I feel so bad for Peter Jackson when it comes to the Hobbit movies, because he didn't deserve that, and he was kind of thrust into that at the last second. But if you have him here in this movie, this is young Bilbo. But then to do it again with the same director, and you have the same Frodo, and you have the same actors, it's like, this is canon young Bilbo, and also Martin Freeman is? So it's like, it gets a little confusing. This is fun in this movie. I love how they obscure Gollum for most of it. I mean, he's really not the focus until Two Towers, but just like, you know, hearing his voice, seeing him in the shadow, it's well done. It's creepy. Yeah, this is interesting. This is just like ripped straight from the book. This concerning hobbits little montage in the beginning of the extended edition. Completely unnecessary, because you get everything about the hobbits as the story progresses along. Like, they give you just enough to keep going. Like, no one sat in this movie and was like, wait a minute, what about the 20-minute montage of what these fucking things are? They're just short people, you know, and you just learn whatever you need to learn as you keep going. Oh, here we go. Oh my god, look at him. He's a beautiful man. Elijah Wood was straight up fucking 17 years old in this movie, and it blows my mind. the day that I turned older than Daniel Radcliffe was at the end of the last Harry Potter movie was forever changed my life. I haven't reached the point of the Friends characters yet, but when that happens, I think I will probably have my quarter life crisis. He's obviously the best choice for this character, and I think it's got, of course, something to do with his eyes, just because he's so literally wide-eyed, and he's so literally like dreaming of a better, of a better existence. But that's what I also really love about Frodo, is that he doesn't play him too crazily over the top, right? Frodo is like this, he's more reserved, like, he's fine with the life he has, he just wishes that he could go off and have an adventure. Like, he's a dreamer, I just appreciate that none of the characters in this movie feel like they're crazy over the top, that they're just caricatures of the characters in the books, which the characters in the books, I mean, people are going to argue with this, and people are going to think this is blasphemy, but the books are more, in my humble opinion, the books are more like, it doesn't feel like we're witnessing the scene, it feels like we're being told about it years later. So it's like, people describe Frodo as this. It doesn't, it doesn't feel like we're actually living with these characters and experiencing the events with them, feeling them as real people. And that's what I appreciate about this movie. Everyone feels real. No one's a joke. No one's an embarrassing giant white orc monster like Azog the Defiler. I heard a rumor that line, he arrives precisely when he means to. I had heard a rumor that was like, he made that up. Tell me in the comments if that's incorrect, because I have a feeling that's incorrect. Oh, that's the shot. That's like the only shot where the height difference they can't sell, because Elijah Wood has to jump and hug Ian McKellen. And it's both of their faces facing camera, so it doesn't really work. Now, I have no clue if this mountain in the back is real. I'm inclined to say yes, just because I know so much of this is real, but it looks a little too good to be true. That shot in particular always struck me as just absolutely gorgeous. Feels so iconic. I can't, like, the camera movement, we're up in the air. It's like you're like a seagull flying over it. It's just, it's so beautiful. Oh, it's so beautiful. I love it so much. I think that was a boom. We see that? Right there. Is that a boom? No, maybe that's the cart? I have no clue. The meeting of the Ians. I have absolutely nothing to say about this upcoming part. Not at all. That was probably very scripted and probably didn't happen by mistake at all. Yeah, well, we skipped the weed scene. There we go. Where's Merry and Pippin? Okay, here we go. Introduction of Merry and Pippin. Now, this was just something they added like later on, because they realized we needed to meet them earlier than in like the fields, in the crops. Right. This is great. I mean, but they stick to the characters. It's hilarious. I mean, Pippin is the one who lights it, and he's like the stuperder, more foolish, naive one, so it makes perfect sense that he would do that and not Merry. Merry's still rambunctious though, because he's in on it. Bilbo's line here, there hasn't been a dragon in here for 1,000 years. That's good world building. I just can't get over these shots, honestly, just absolutely floor me. It's just the blending of the two sets, the fact that Ian McKellen was on a blue screen set and Ian Holm was actually there. It's like too perfect. It's like you never would assume that it was too. I mean, if you're a stupid person, you'd be like, oh, I guess he's really that tall. Wow, they found a really tall dude. Which, I don't know. He's like, it's in an envelope over there on the mantelpiece. Why did Gandalf ever think that was true if Bilbo literally just walked in the door, having just used the ring? Did he see him go to the mantelpiece? No. I just thought that was bizarre. I love, like, Ian Holm's, like, childlike quivering here when Gandalf gets mad at him. That's, like, an actor's choice that I think is really beautiful. It gives you impression of what the hobbits are like, like, he's, like, this spirited adventurer, but the hobbits are, like, their worldview is so different, He's very much like a child, and love how he just kind of, like, resorts to, just, like, quivering and shaking. This is great. He can't, like, how long it takes him to drop it. Still hasn't left his hand yet. And there it is. And if they used a magnet to make it hit the ground harder and stick to the ground to Imply the weight. That's great. This shot, you know, implies something's off, something's weird about it. The zoom always took me out there. I thought that was a little strange. The flash cut, oh, genius. I've used that in stuff I've made, and of course it's been done before. It's like a trailer shot, that flash, like, but I love when they do that so much. I always thought it was bizarre how long it took Frodo to get back to the house. What was he doing? He was like, where did he go? Where else would he have gone but home? I don't know. He knew that Bilbo was gonna leave. It seems like it's been an hour. What was he doing? Oh, that shot is brilliant. It's like the wide angle close up on the ring makes it feel so, Frodo's hand feels so much larger in comparison to like to the rest of the screen. These subtle choices to imply like the burden of the ring, the weight of the ring. Yeah, basically every over the shoulder you see of Frodo, it's not him. It's a little person named Kieran, I think his name was. I don't know, something like that. Miniatures again, it's just excellent. Just looks beautiful. It just looks so real. The fact that it's live photography being shot is a huge plus. You can't sleep on miniature photography. When The Force Awakens came out, I was duped. I was under the impression that we were gonna get like models against blue screen shot for all like the X-Wings and the TIE fighters and shit like that. And I was lied to because they said they were doing things the old way. And then the movie came out and it was obviously a piece of shit. I always thought it was interesting. He says Shire Baggins here. And then again, they cut back when Gandalf and Frodo are talking. And they show you the exact same thing. And I always thought that was like, that's probably unneeded. The shot choice in this movie is just miraculous. It just makes so much sense. How large Gandalf's nose is like hilarious to me. He's like kind of on edge looking around when he hears like a crow or something. That sets up kind of that paranoia that comes back when Sam returns again. So you think, oh, maybe it's just birds again this time. But it's not. It's actually a person. This is great. I love how his hand instinctually drops when he does that. This was something I noticed particularly. The fact that the blocking in this movie is just so smart. I love how Ian McKellen turns away. Like he walks away from Frodo almost like he's scared to look at it himself. Like you get your college acceptance letter in the mail and you're like, somebody else open it. I can't look at it because if it's bad news, I don't want him to see my face. Really appreciated that this time. Like he can't look at it. He's too scared. And I love the look on his face, the look of defeat. It's like he can sense everything that's coming, what he has to do. You know, it's like, fuck. Now I gotta go through all this fucking shit. He's a brilliant actor, especially in that scene. Oh my god, I love this scene. Oh, when he hears the voice of the ring, like he's legitimately frightened. It's beautiful. I love their speaking in hushed voices, like he's afraid that Sauron could hear him. It's great, right? He's like, you can't stay in the Shire. Gandalf's like, no, I can't. This look of realization on Frodo's face is great. This movie, the reactions in this movie are top tier. I love that he's saying nothing, but it's just the silent realization of, oh, you mean me? Oh, I have to be the one? I have to be the one to do it. Even though it's the adventure he's always wanted, it's not really the adventure he's always wanted. He's never wanted to deal with dark and evil things. He's wanted to, like, climb mountains and shit. This shot is great. Oh, I love that it's a shaky cam, so we follow him, walk in, and then we pull back, and it's all one shot, and Ian McKellen's there, and he's tall. And the height difference is so well sold just in that one shot, just because it's one shot. The camera like barely ever stops moving, and every move that it makes is just so smart. I didn't notice this before, how all the creatures, like all the bugs, like run away from the presence of the ring, right? They can sense the evil, and like even the worms get scared, is such a brilliant detail. There's all these sounds in the trees, of the birds and all the, you know, the bugs and the wind. Everything comes to a crashing halt as soon as the Black Rider shows up. I just think it's such an interesting concept. You take like these completely innocent, carefree, happy little people, and you put them in the throes of evil and absolute bane of civilization. I just think it's fantastic. The way it's shot is so hectic. I love the Peter Jackson choice of slow-mo is great. It's always in moments when you either want something to speed up, like emotionally, or you want something to slow down. And here he's slow. He feels like he can't move any faster than he can. And they're telling him to speed up, but it's in slow motion and he can't go any faster. So I think that's just such an excellent choice to do there. Black Riders are so fucking cool and scary. I just love that you can't see their faces. Just so easy. It's way better than like a creepy face. Like they're way less scary when you see them in like the Ring Wraith world, in like the world of the Ring. Yeah, I mean there's large portions of this movie that I have nothing to say. It's just all so perfect. It's just all so good. Look at the lighting in this scene. Good Christ, it's just beautiful. Like I can't believe it. You know, it's like that. It's like dark and stormy, but it's also like this beautiful sunset, and it's like, oh good God. I wish the whole movie was this lighting. Oh my God, with the hills in the background and Jesus. I always thought this was foolish of Sam. Like, what is he doing? Like, he knows the riders are after them and he's so protective of Frodo. Like, I always thought this was like a little against his character. I was like, he's gonna do that? Obviously the other two would totally be into a late night snack in full view of your enemies. I don't, this is interesting for me. I don't know why he puts on the ring here. Is it just because he wants to disappear? Why would he pull it out? He knows they're after him. Why would he pull it out in full view of them? Oh, this is the thing you want. This is the thing you've been looking for. I was always confused about that. I'm like, did the ring make him pull it out? What's going on there? Somebody tell me in the comments. I can really feel the pain here. Sam's like basically crying, seeing that Frodo was stabbed by this thing. It's great. It's excellent. They take this material so seriously, and they just make everything feel so real. There's no memes in this movie. They're never trolling us, except when they are. I'm like deathly afraid of moths, but I always thought this little moth dude was like the cutest thing ever. Look at, oh, and his little paw. It's just adorable. I always thought it was so cute. This is disgusting. I love this. That they're just like, it's like literal shit. But it's like an egg sack over them. Ugh. Oh, it's like latex, and God, just the artistry in this movie is intense. I love how Saruman even looks like a little bit disgusted too. He's like, Jesus Christ, like what the fuck is happening here? Yeah, like look at his face. He's like, I don't know about that. This looks pretty gross. Liv Tyler is gorgeous. Oh my God. I love Liv Tyler's interest in this. It's a great substitution for the character in the book who was Glorfindel. Who was just this random elf who never shows up again. So, great, makes sense that they would substitute Arwen. She says here, what's this? A ranger caught off his guard. And I always thought, I foolishly as a child thought that these two people were meeting for the first time. And then when they like, you know, make kissy face later in the movie, I was like, what the fuck? So I thought you just met yesterday. But no, in this line, what's this? A ranger caught off his guard. That's sarcasm. And it's kind of subtle, especially because we can't see her face seeing it. So I don't know if maybe this is like a little bit confusing to viewers who just don't know the history. Yeah, it's like kind of playful. It's kind of sexy in how she says it. I like that. That's fun. And of course he sees her and like in this fucked up realm that he's retreating to. He sees her and she's in a completely different clothes and she's like bathed in light. It's just great. It's just so mysterious and it's just so strange. As a viewer, you're like, what's going on here? It's like there's just mystery to it that's not fully explained. You know, there's never a scene where Frodo was like, why did she look like this when I first saw her? You know, it's just kind of the way the world is, and he just accepts that there are weird things in this world. This is funny. When Pippin's like, what are they saying? And I love how the hobbits keep asking them questions, and they're not answering them. The hobbits kind of take a back seat in this movie. Frodo doesn't do a whole lot in the movie. He's kind of just there, and he kind of gets hurt, and he falls down a few times. Apparently, she had to like speak in like a lower register because she tried to, like, you know, tried delivering the lines in like her normal voice, which is like a little bit higher pitched, and it just like didn't really work. Didn't really evoke that sense of like immortality, and so I guess it was like a little bit of a challenger for her to bring her lines down like that, which I think is kind of fun and interesting. I love how they kind of come out of the trees, how they're like whipping past, and you're like, you almost can't see if they're there. It's like they're obscured, like you only see like a hoof for the part of their face. I think that's nice. Like they come out of nowhere, which is great because they're basically like supernatural creatures that they're basically operating in a different realm than us. Come and claim him. Right here, I always thought this thing in the water was like fingers. I always thought it was like fingers, but turns out they're horses. when I watched the behind the scenes. It's supposed to be horses, which I don't think it really matters if it's horses or whatever. It's just the fact that she summoned a wave is fucking dope. And she never does it again. Not that she really has much action scenes left in this trilogy, to be honest. Which she was supposed to have an action scene in... She was supposed to show up in Helm's Deep in Two Towers. But it leaked online that they were going to do that. And, like, the fanboys were like, no, you can't do that. It doesn't make any sense. Pushing the feminist agenda. And Peter Jackson was like, right. Sorry, mate, we won't do that. Oh, this part's a little goofy. The look of Elrond's face. It looks like it's squashed. It looks like the face of a... It looks like a fucking Veggie Tale. It looks like Larry the Cucumber. So I always thought that was a little bit goofy. That's a little bit dated. We don't really do that anymore. Like put someone's face and like cut out the background. That's really not that's gone out of practice. Oh, this is fun. It's not only like just like a simple fade from white. It's also like you can see just how the light changes. It's a practical fade from white. So it's both like in post and practical, which I think is fun. Oh, this is funny because Gandalf says, "Oh, I was delayed." He was like, "Why didn't you meet us at the Prancing Pony?" And then it cuts back to this whole thing where you see how Gandalf got back. He used the eagle to escape, and then we cut back and Frodo's like, "Gandalf, what were you doing? Like, why were you delayed?" And he's like, "Nothing." Like he didn't tell him any of that, which I think is funny. I didn't notice. It was kind of funny watching it in the theater. I was like, "Oh, that's like a little bit of a joke." Like you expect that we cut to a flashback and he's telling him this story, but he wasn't. This is beautiful. Oh my god, it's like 12 different miniature shots combined into one. You know, we've got the people walking in the background. Kind of like the slow-mo here. Setting up Rivendell is kind of like time is slower, everyone is immortal, like life takes longer. I am ready to go home. This is where like most people that see the movie for the first time think, like, oh, it's like the movie's like probably like almost over now. But what was the Fellowship about? Why is it called that? Love this conversation. We see Elrond. We cut back to the prologue, which is great, just bridging the gap between those. This is excellent. They go up into Mount Doom, and he shows him exactly. It's also foreshadowing for the third one. You show this is exactly what you have to do to destroy the ring. So they set it up completely. There's no real surprises. They don't pull any punches. They're pretty cheeky about it, just right in this movie. They're like, this is what it's going to look like. This is what you do. You just got to drop it in the lava. It's pretty simple. Isildur kept the ring. He's like, there's no strength left in the world of men. And then for that to change in the third one, and for him to bring the sword to Aragorn, it's just excellent. It completes like this little mini arc for Elrond, who's such a side character, who's such like this just cool background character who didn't really necessarily need a little arc. Oh, it's this part. It's this part when he walks away. I love this. He's basically just saying like, oh, I'm so above men, these petty men and their emotional differences, and they're so crazy reactionary and like they're so silly. What better way to like show someone's like hot-headedness and pretentiousness than to literally like bathe him in this grand shot of his wealth and everything he owns in like one shot, and just the breadth of his knowledge, and you know there's scrolls and like quills and fucking like this dude is on his shit. He thinks he's so much better than these fucking pricks. God, I wish there was a whole movie, honestly, with just these two, because their chemistry is just so palpable. Like the sensual tension between them is like so real. They're so passionate, and it's also just that she's so beautiful. It's like, it's kind of like incredible to behold. He's got the most incredible stubble beard that never seems to get any longer, any of these movies, and it's a sight to behold. This is a great addition, apparently. I mean, it wasn't in the book, like their romance. It's just beautiful. It's an interesting conflict. You owe him your allegiance. This is great. This is editing 101. Frodo's our main character. But this is a reveal that has nothing to do with Frodo. This has specifically to do about Aragorn finding out his name is Aragorn. He's heir to the throne of Gondor, which is a big fucking deal. The movie Return of the King, the third one, is named after him. You know, he's not just some outcast. This is excellent. You have to cut back to Frodo. This is editing 101 because he's our main character. We have to see Frodo's reaction to this. You know, there's nothing in this movie that can feel like it has nothing to do with Frodo. Even the scenes with Saruman, he's like, we have to find the ring bearer. You know, it's just makes sense. You cannot wield it. It has no other master. I love the introduction to Boromir just because you just think, oh, he's just like a hothead, like football player, like jock Chad, who's just like, why don't we just like use the ring for ourselves? Fucking pummel the orcs into the ground. Fucking problem solved. It's just like a good visual metaphor that everyone's so tall, these like giant tall men are bickering and yelling at one another. And it's just like cacophony. You can't really pick out a distinct voice. The look on Ian McKellen's face here is excellent. It's like he's resigned himself to the fact that Frodo is going to die, but he's also so he's so admiring of Frodo's strength and bravery. And this is great. This is such a humbling moment for the rest of the council, because they're like, damn, none of us really wanted to do this, but this little dude who all he knows is how to like fucking drink and eat like bread and grains all day and lay on his ass, he's gonna take it to Mordor? I love it. It's so humbling. Puts him on his level. Merry is the first one to run, and if you'll notice through this whole movie, Pippin is a follower. He always follows Merry. Anything Merry does, Pippin is gonna follow right after. This is Pippin's sort of arc. He has to kind of become a leader of himself, which he does take on to a certain extent. In Lord of the Rings 3, Return of the King, he kind of takes some initiative, pledges his allegiance to the Steward of Gondor, requires real strength and gusto. It's not smart, you know, he's still Pippin, he's still like a fool, but at least he's not just following blindly what other people tell him to do. And that's a decision that's made by, you know, that Peter Jackson and Dominic Monaghan and Billy Boyd would have made in creating these characters for the screen. This part, I mean, this Ian's face here is like a meme, of course, because it's so hilarious. But another great part about this scene is the reaction right afterwards. Not only the fact that Elijah Wood looks legitimately frightened, it's the fact that he's like, oh my god, I've literally never seen my uncle look like this before. It completely changes his perspective on Bilbo. But also what this is saying is this what I will become? You know, and that further amplifies itself in Two Towers to the point where he realizes, oh my god, you were a hobbit once, Gollum, right? This part coming up always gives me chills seeing it. This is, oh my god, it's the money shot, folks. This is the money shot. We have to see everyone in one shot. Difficult to achieve, of course, because everyone's different heights. But the actors are all basically the same height, you know? So it's just insane. And hearing the full Howard Shore's full Fellowship theme in full-fledged orchestral form is just a sight, sound to hear. I love that they gave Boromir this cute little relationship with Merry and Pippin. This is, oh, I noticed this detail. Where were we? Sam makes this plate, and watch where he takes it to. Before he gets food for himself, he gives a plate to Frodo. That's a giant ring prop, but they just put it close enough so that it looks like it's tiny, and you wouldn't assume that it's a giant prop, but it's like this big. Again, just like implying the weight and like the burden of it. They do that a lot for what close-ups of the ring. It's often like a giant ring, which is cool. In the original trailer for this movie, the shot on the ring is actually more closer on the ring. The ring is centered and it's like a wide angle close-up, but they reshot it. Peter Jackson realized that it wasn't working. Reshot it. The focus is on Boromir because this is crucial for Boromir. This is another page in his step towards in his arc as a character. You know, we push into Boromir. The ring is on the left of the screen. You know, we got to push into him because the focus is on him. We're teetering on that edge of, is he going to snap and take it for himself and become insane and try and use the ring to his benefit? Like, is that what's going to happen? Who knows? In the book, this is like the spirit of the mountain that like causes a giant avalanche upon them, but in the movie it's Saruman. You know, he's the villain. It's clear that they set up who the villain is and what he can do. Frodo's like, it's a riddle. Speak, friend, and enter. Gandalf, what's the elvish word for friend? And in the movie, Gandalf says, Merlor. But in the book, it just says melon. It's spelled the exact same as melon, like M-E-L-O-N. And I remember reading that and thinking it was the most hilarious thing I've ever read. This is a good choice camera-wise right here. We push in. This isn't a mine. Then we push in again from a different angle. It's a tomb. This isn't a mine. It's a tomb. Because it just accents both part of that line, you know? If we push in on one shot, it doesn't have the same effect. This is an excellent miniature shot. It just looks so real. There's not a lick of CGI in it, except for the fact, I mean, the coloring, of course, and we've got the characters in the back there that are digitally placed there. Merry and Pippin are just talking about being hungry. Great. Take it back to them. Take it back to the hobbits. Take it back to their perspective. Like, they're just like little kids. They would be hungry. Like, what else would you be doing in this fucking circumstance? We see a glimpse of Gollum for the first time. It's the original Gollum. It's the original CG model of Gollum. It's not the same. This is a necessary scene for Frodo. His perspective has changed on, like, evil things because, you know, he was, like, raised in this happy, carefree world where evil is evil and good is good. Everything's black and white, but literally, now everything's a little bit more gray. Gollum he could be a victim in all this. I don't know. He suffered the same fate that Bilbo could have, or you could have. So it kind of changes Frodo's perspective. I like that. This is a necessary scene. Also, it gives Frodo that line that rings in his head at the end of the movie when Gandalf's like, all you have to do is decide what to do with the time that is given to you. And that everything was meant to happen, which I think is a beautiful little sentiment, which I think it does encourage Frodo. Just knowing that, like, even though he doesn't want to do this, this is how it was always meant to go. He was never meant to stay in the Shire. He was always meant to leave. And he was always meant to be the one to take it. So it's kind of like this encouraging thought. It's a nice philosophy to have, you know? Everything you do, you're meant to have done. I appreciate that. Even when you're wildly depressed, you're meant to go through hell to get your way out, you know? I think that's nice. This is one of those moments in these movies that just feels like it's an illustration in one of the books. This is one of the, like, completely CG shots in the movie, and they were very afraid about it, but I think lighting was on their side. They were very smart with that. The, like, person writing a log and their hand trails off, writing as if, like, they died while writing it. I just think it's such a creepy, it just, like, makes my skin crawl seeing that. I love these, like, Saving Private Ryan type shots. We have the low angle shaky cam. It's, like, handheld. It's kind of wide, kind of just showing you the scene from, like, somebody who's there. You feel like you're in the moment. And it's not easy shots to do. That's what I love it. It's so bold from a visual effects standpoint, because you can't lock the CG character. Like, in a stable shot, it's easy to just put the CG character in one place, and that's the ground, that's the horizon, that's what they move on. But in a shot like this, when he's moving around and the perspective is changing, and, you know, we're tilting and we're backing up, and it's such a challenge. And so I kind of admire the fucking gumption of these guys that we're like, yeah, we're gonna do it. We're not gonna let the limitations of technology stop us from doing everything we can possibly do. It's just, oh god, look, it's just so fucking good. That's another thing with the action in this movie is it's really effective. It's also, like, kind of close and fast, almost like a Bourne movie, like, in terms of, like, the shaky cam, that similar style, not the exact same type of thing, but you feel like you're there, and it's never like they just, like, let the camera sit. It's smart. It's well-directed action sequences. We gotta talk about this. Oh, look at that slow-mo. That slow-mo that's what we call... So it was shot at 24 frames per second, but then it was digitally slowed down. So like, every frame you see twice, and that's why it looks kind of choppy, and it's not like a smooth slow-mo. And that's a great effect, because that's almost like a disorienting slow-mo when everything, like, kind of gets, like... Like a smooth slow-mo you would show to show, like, the breadth of a full motion, or to, like, make a moment feel like you don't want it to end, or you want it to speed up. You know, it's like, it's totally dependent on the vibe of the scene. Let's see, it happens in there. It's kind of, I mean, I've watched this people, and I think that effect is, like, a little bit dated. That type of slow-mo really isn't used anymore. You see it now, and people just think it's, like, crappy slow-mo. That it's just poorly done slow-mo, because we have high-speed cameras now. But it's not. You can do that, and it has a different effect. See, it's like it's a little choppy, and it's like a little bit silly. Oh, this is a great punctuation moment for the end of the scene. It's like, yes, we killed the fucking giant troll, we killed all the orcs, we saved the day, but we're still not out of it yet. And it's just, as an audience member, it's the clapping moment. You know, it's, I think there's more to this hobbit than meets the eye. To the bridge of Khazad-dûm. Fucking so fucking good. Wraparound shots when you see them pulling up out of the floors. Oh, it's so creepy, and they're coming down from the ceilings. Oh, it's like so good. It's all so good. Whereas I love the like unbridled look of fear on Pippin's face. There's like a close-up of a goblin. Yeah. And Pippin's like, oh, he looks like he just shit his pants. It's hilarious. It's not like a, it's like a, it's like the Mike Wazowski meme. Like he just doesn't know what to do with himself. I love the look on Gandalf's face. He's like, fuck, I knew this was gonna happen. I knew I was gonna have to fight the fucking Balrog. Okay, there's a shot coming up that I think I actually don't like. I'm not a fan. Balrog shows up, and it's fucking badass. I love the bass boost on, like, his roar. It's like, oh, like seat pounding in the theater. I was like, oh shit. Like, I'd never been afraid of the Balrog before. It's just so cool. What's that wavy effect that the fire does in the air where it like makes things wave? I just love it. I love it. It's this one. I don't like the fact that we can like see him in all his glory. The fact that he's kind of just like standing there, like that's kind of like the Mike Wazowski stance, isn't it again? Right there. Yeah. He just looks like a little goofy, and the fact that the shot is like, we're kind of just like trucking backwards, I'm not a fan of it. I think like if they had done like shaky cam when they were being chased by the goblins before, it would have worked much better and like obscure his height and like his real size, which I think would have been scarier. In this case, I just think he looks a little goofy. His last moment when he says, "Fly, you fools." I saw this theory that said that was Gandalf telling them to use the eagles and take the eagles to Mordor. He was telling them to fly. And I thought that was hilarious. And obviously not the case. One thing I appreciate about this movie so much is the fact that every scene looks different than the last. The difference in lighting in every single scene is so different. I just said that twice. That sounds really dumb. Kind of think this is like a sun, but it's kind of like diffuse, so it's kind of like white. And we're kind of getting to this part of the forest that's like more glowy and ethereal. I just see so many movies nowadays where like every scene looks the exact same. The lighting is the same. It's that orange and teal look. And this movie does orange and teal like maybe one time, and I just can't believe it. It's just so. This is how movies are meant to be. You know, each scene is meant to be unique. This is miniature and digital, and it just looks. Oh, and the lighting changes as we move upwards. See, it like turns more blue. God, it's like, I never, that was the first time I just noticed that. That was really weird. That was pretty interesting. Like the world is literally changing visually. That's like that all old Hollywood soft focus look on these people. That like kind of like romantic, you know, those shots of Ingrid Bergman in Casablanca are similar to that. Yeah, see how like everything's a little bit slowed down? I love it. This is a completely necessary scene. We learned that Boromir, not only, he's not just like a huge hothead that just wants the ring for himself. He's not just like this selfish brute. Like, his dad is counting on him to, you know, save their kingdom from the throngs of fucking evil. So this scene is perfect. It fucking humanizes him. It furthers relationship between Aragorn and Boromir, because Aragorn has this familial connection to Gondor, and he's resistant to it, but through speaking with Boromir's love for the place, for his affinity for their culture, it's kind of, Aragorn is growing too, learning to understand the beauty of it, you know, and maybe not be so resistant to it. This is clearly just gravity, the ring, because he's leaned over, pulling over, but it's like, I love the, like, it's kind of obscured, so you're like, is it gravity? Or is the ring pulling itself closer to this image of Sauron? This part didn't age well. It's a little silly. I think just the fact that it's such a stable shot, like, why did it have to be so... It looks like a TikTok. It looks like a TikTok dance she's doing. Like, it's so bizarre. And the fact that her voice is, like, double layered. It's like one high, one low. Just sounds a little bit goofy. We don't really do that anymore. That's a little outdated.
It's a little old-fashioned, you know, it doesn't really work anymore.
Gimli's like, oh, I'm so fed up. The road ahead is so fucking perilous. And he's like, oh, this is gonna be real fun. Because Gimli's just like sarcastic the whole time and it's hilarious. Sam is right here and he's listening to whatever he's saying. And he's detailing the entire journey. The road to Mordor, specifically what the path is. And so Sam knows this. At the end of the movie, when he leaves with Frodo, he knows exactly where he's got to go. Oh, this part. Boromir's like in the boat. And he like kind of collapses and he's like, his breath is kind of shallow. And it's almost like he's like maybe having a panic attack for a second. And it's like, whoa, what is happening here? What I loved in this moment, it's like he's really grappling with this this gut desire to just take the ring for himself, hightail it to Gondor, give it to his father, and use it against the enemy. And that's what he wants to do. But there's also sworn allegiance to not doing that. And, you know, he's an honorable man, so he doesn't want to break the fellowship. So it's like, I love just this outward, his body just, like, caving in. And I noticed that. And then Frodo, like, he has this look on his face like he kind of notices something, like he feels something. And, of course, that interaction where Boromir had the ring and he was looking at it, he can kind of sense that something's off. And I love how quickly, after he tries to steal the ring, that he reverts back to this, like, whimpering, like, person. Which this tells you that Boromir's a good guy, how quickly he realizes that he was in the wrong. You know, that, like, he just snapped. Like some people, sometimes you just go a little mad. And he's like, what have I done? And at first you think, like, oh, he's just tricking him, but he's not. Because Boromir's a good dude, you know? He's just grappling with this, you know, this desire to... He's got fucking daddy issues. He just wants to impress his father. He just wants to do whatever he can to impress his father. From Aragorn starting as this, like, creepy, like, mysterious character in the corner of the room who looks like he might, like, literally just want to hurt Frodo, to going to this, where you almost think, maybe for, like, a half a second, that Aragorn's going to take the ring, instead, just to close it. It's just a beautiful, you know, it's showing actions instead of saying words. It's very smart. Oh, and Frodo's hands are so small. Ah, I literally just noticed that for the first time. That's hilarious. I literally never noticed that. And then he relinquishes his grip. Oh, it's so nice. So nice. I love the relationship between these two. Just the understanding between them. Real kinship there. Frodo's reached the point where he has to do this journey alone. From what he learned from Galadriel, he's got to do it himself. That's the choice he's made, you know, from what he learned from Gandalf and from this whole journey he's taught him, is that, like, as much as he doesn't want to, he's got to do it. It's just what needs to be fucking done. Nothing can stop his fate from coming to him. And that's what it's like super interesting. I thought it's kind of like a romantic comedy. It's like he and Sam are in this relationship, and Frodo changes, you know, at the end of this movie, you know. So he doesn't need to be with Sam anymore. He doesn't need Sam looking after him anymore. So it's in that way, it's similar to a romantic comedy where at the end, before they get back together for the last time, they split up. Then it's up to the other character for them to make the final push. It's like when Harry met Sally. When Sally goes to the New Year's dance at the end by herself, she's done with it. She's done with Harry. You know, she's moved on. You know, she's changed. She's content with who she is. But then Harry runs it to the end. So I think it's kind of funny. Just structurally, it's very similar to like a romantic comedy with Sam and Frodo. Frodo's, because Merry realizes that Frodo's leaving, but Pippin doesn't because of who Pippin is. And it's just a little detail. It just makes perfect sense. It's just these like little social cues that Frodo understands and Merry understands, but Pippin doesn't, because Pippin's a little bit more naive and a little bit more silly. And he's foolish. He runs straight out. He doesn't want Frodo to go. Watch this. I noticed this particularly. See? Merry goes first, and then Pippin looks to him, and he's like, okay, yes, we should do this. Yes, let's do it. And then they defend him. Boromir dies. This whole sequence is just beautiful. It's actually sad. The fact that he calls him my king, like broke my heart when I watched it in the theater. Just feeling it. It's just such a good character. Oh my god, it's so sad. it's so tragic, you know, because the last moment they knew of him was like, you know, like him failing, and it's just so tragically beautiful. Just he's like, no, that wasn't me, you know, like I know I fucked up, but like I'm better than that. We're always pushing in on the ring. It's always about the ring, people. It's Lord of the Rings. It's what this fucking thing is about. I love it because you've got that like soft glow of sunset in the background. It's kind of orange. It's kind of pink. And then it's like kind of smoggy and foggy at the top because that's like, you know, that's like Mordor. That's the future. That's where they're headed. So it's almost like all the glow of innocence is kind of dying out in the background. It's just gorgeous. It's just a gorgeous movie. And then the music is just perfect. It's absolutely stunning. Howard Shore's scores is perfect. And then we end on that, and them walking down the hill. And that's the end of the movie. Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed my breakdown of Fellowship of the Ring and why this movie fucking slaps. I had a really fun time doing this, scrubbing through this movie. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks.